Modern video games suck. Surprised that I would say that on the channel, I'm sure. Seems to be a common trend with all my content, but look, I'm not happy about it. Just that right now it seems like things aren't going to get any better anytime soon. More strong girl boss protagonists, more LGBT content forced into the games, and just less fun to be had. All the while games cost more and more and don't respect your time. Did even multiplayer games have turned into a chore as you're being forced to log on for certain events or finish your battle pass that you paid for before it expires? More and more, it just seems like we're the ones being played. But, what if I told you that there is a solution? What if I told you that for the same price as a brand new AAA game, you, my dear fellow gamer, could enter a world where the games are good, the main characters are straight dudes, again, probably like you and me, and there's not a battle pass in sight. That sounds amazing, right? That's all that we ever want. Well, then you need to buy a PS3. But Beardson, the PS3 has no games. Haven't you seen the meme? But Beardson, retro games are old and they look all crappy. Shut up. Shut your mouth. Shut your stupid mouth. Okay? You are going to buy a PS3 and you're going to love it because it might be the greatest investment that you could make right now in your gaming life. Okay? Look, 6 months ago, I was just like you. I was bored with gaming, completely burned out, and fed up with what the game industry was offering me. It's like, oh cool, another trans Latinx teen main character gonna, I don't know, save the day from the evil white people, right? Another game with crappy millennial writing that is oh so quirky, yet as transparent and vapid as Bianca Sensori's clothes. I was burned out of buying battle passes for games that I'd never finish and be forced to play so I didn't get locked out of content that I already fucking paid for. Being forced to log in like cattle in order to appease my corporate masters. I couldn't do it anymore. So, in what I considered a rebellious act of defiance, I went into my closet, I grabbed my PS2, and I started playing old classics like Onimusha and SmackDown vs. Raw. And honestly, I was having more fun playing those games than anything I spent $70 on that year. I was actually surprised by how well these games held up, and I wanted more. But Beardson, I'm sure you're asking, I thought this video was about the PlayStation 3. If the PS2 is so great, then why aren't you telling me to buy one of those? Just shut up, okay? Let me cook, dude. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy a PS2. The PS2 rules. It's probably my favorite game console of all time, and I couldn't recommend it enough. But without the right setup, either a big, bulky, super heavy CRT television that you're gonna throw your back out trying to lift into your house, or a high-end upscaler to connect it to a modern TV that's gonna cost probably a couple $100, you're really not gonna have a great experience, unfortunately. On top of that, the price of PS2 games seems to be skyrocketing right now due to the fact that there are a lot of people right now disillusioned with modern gaming like you and me. So the games are getting pretty expensive and they're getting harder to find too. There are, some solutions to this problem, like emulation, which I do recommend, but if you're like me, I like to play the games on the original console that they were meant to be played on. I am a person who loves the feel of the original controller. So I'll probably do a video later on down the road talking about the PS2 and how to get into it and why it's just the GOAT of all video game consoles. But right now, I want to talk about the PS3 because it's just so easy to recommend. The catalog of games, the price, and the overall functionality of the PS3, to me, makes it probably the best investment that somebody can make right now. And it's just super easy to get into, unlike something like the PS2. For one, dude, I had no idea how many absolute classics were trapped on the PS3 without remasters or ports.
I never really dived into the catalog of that era because I was mainly an Xbox 360 guy back then, admittedly. I was too busy playing Halo and Call of Duty to really play anything else. So now that both of those franchises are garbage, I've had the chance to go back and discover so many games that I've missed out back then, and they're awesome. I never played the Killzone series or Resistance. I never played any of the God of War games or really even the Sly Cooper games, and those are incredible. Or like even like weird games like Katamari or Tokyo Jungle. Like there's so many games that I never got a chance to play before, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are missing out on these too. And there's these awesome, incredible remastered collections of PS2 classics too. Sly Cooper collection, Jak and Daxter, Prince of Persia, Splinter Cell, Metal Gear Solid. And honestly, I'd argue that these collections are still probably the best way to play some of these classic games. And you can buy them for the price of a cheeseburger at Five Guys, dude. PS3 games are cheap. It's incredibly easy to walk into your local retro game store, drop 20 bucks, and come home with like 3 or 4 absolute 9 out of 10 gems that'll keep you busy for weeks. Dude, I remember going into the store when I first got into PS3 collecting. I bought GTA 4 Complete Edition, LA Noire, WWE 13, which is arguably one of the best wrestling games of all time, and Midnight Club LA Complete Edition for like 25 bucks. That's insane. That's insane, dude. I'm not kidding. I did like a cartoon eyes pop out of my head double take Looney Tunes style when I saw how cheap some of these games are, dude. It's crazy to me that Rockstar is charging $50 for the remaster of Red Dead Redemption. Meanwhile, I can go pick up the same game for 10 bucks with all the DLC for my PS3. And look, sure, it's been remastered and the graphics look slightly better. But dude, is it really worth the $40 so you can see the stress wrinkles on John Marston's face that he got for being nagged at constantly by his annoying wife? To me, not really. It's the same game. It plays the exact same. And to be honest, I think a lot of these remasters sort of remove some of the charm of those old games, you know? These are the way that these games were meant to be played and how they were meant to be looked at. And I don't know, I'm a kind of a purist. And I just like to enjoy the games the way that they were originally made to begin with. And dude, even the system itself is dirt cheap. They're so cheap, I bought 3 of them. I've got a PS3 in every room of my house. I'm not kidding. One in the game room, the office that I'm in now, one in my bedroom, and one in my living room. You can regularly find these things for like 50 or 60 bucks, maybe 80 or 90 if you're not too lucky. And even then, they're worth every single penny. Now, if you're wanting to get the ever elusive PS2 that's the PS2 backwards compatible model, that's gonna set you back quite a bit. But dude, I'm telling you, you do not need it. It is not worth shelling out $200 or $300 on the backwards compatible model, and I'll explain why a little bit later. Not only that, too, and I won't bore you with the specifics, but the chip on those tends to overheat. Just get yourself a nice slim unit for pennies, and you'll have access to what I consider to be the last great era of gaming. A time before every main character gave a speech about their gender identity in the opening cutscene. I'd avoid the last model of PS3 they made with like the sliding top disc tray, but that's only because they're fucking ugly and there's less that you can do with them. If you buy one, just get a slim model with a model number that starts with 2000 or 2100 and you're set. Now, I'm sure you're asking, but Beardson, why those specific models? Because then you can unlock the absolute greatest part of the PS3, and that is its modding capabilities, dude. Modding the PS3 is so easy, it is so simple, and all it requires is a USB thumb drive. And now you've turned a great video game console into probably the greatest console of all times in terms of functionality and utility. Remember how I said that you don't need a backwards compatible model? That's because once you mod your PS3, you can play PS2 games on the console. And not just PS2 games, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and tons of other games via emulation. It's awesome. There are a few quirks, admittedly, with PS2 games, and some games will require you to download like compatibility patches to get them running correctly on your PS3. But dude, it's worth it to be able to have access to PS1, PS2, and PS3 games on a single console. Now, me personally, I still prefer the PS2 experience. I have a CRT television, and there's just something about playing the games on the original hardware as it's intended. But for the price, you really can't beat it. And if you don't like the idea of swapping discs, you know, if you're a Zoomer, it's like, swapping discs, that's gay, or whatever. You can literally install the PS2 and PS3 games that you own, of course, legally. I do not condone piracy, but you can install them directly onto the hard drive with the modded console. You can go out, buy a 1 terabyte hard drive, slap it in the console, takes 5 seconds to do, and now you have all your games neatly cataloged on your system, ready to play at a moment's notice. And if you don't like the PS3 controller, you can literally just plug in your PS5 DualSense via USB and use that instead. Now, you won't have rumble, and on some games there is some jankiness to it with the sticks, but that can all be fixed with a $40 dongle. And I played through the entirety of GTA 4 using a DualSense, and it was awesome. And honestly, let's be honest, controller rumble sucks. It's overrated. I don't know why people like it. Like, I just don't like it. It sucks. The point is, the PS3 is probably the greatest console of all time. What you can do with this thing is incredible for the price and the barrier of entry. I'd still argue that the PS2 has the better catalog of games, but you can play all those games on your PS3. With the state of gaming being what it is right now, buying a PS3 is a revolutionary act. The only way video game companies are going to stop pandering to non-gamers and start making games with people like us in mind is if we show them that without us, this industry will collapse. All we have to do is stop giving them our hard-earned money, and eventually things will get better. At the end of the day, I love video games and I don't want to stop playing them. I just want companies to make games for people like you and me, not some pink-haired member of the Alphabet Mafia that only plays farming games where you can date goats and dragons. In order to save gaming, we have to return to our roots, to return to tradition. And I think the PS3 is a perfect middle ground for people who like the comforts of modern gaming, but don't like always online requirements and battle passes. We can still have fun and not conform to joining a polyamorous relationship in the new Mass Effect. These classics not only align better with our values as gamers, but I'd argue that they're actually just better games too. I've had more fun playing the original God of War games than the new God of War Ragnarok. So, what I'm saying is, join me, my brothers, in leaving modern gaming behind. Let the games industry destroy itself in the name of diversity and inclusion. Let's force CEOs and executives to chase after us, the people who built this industry through our gamer rage and broken controllers, instead of the people who mocked it years ago. My fellow gamers, buy a PlayStation 3 and join the revolution. It's fucking awesome. Thank you. I love you guys. God bless you. And I will see you on the PSN.